Whether it's politics, the fact there used to be genuine bad blood, or the idea just doesn't add up when you think about it, there are some people you just don't expect to ever be on WWE TV. Like right now, I would be one of those people, and if I turned up on Raw next week, we'd all be like, what the hell? It wouldn't make any sense. Yet sometimes all the stars align and the planets come together and the unthinkable does happen. Individuals who should never be on WWE programming find a way to get on there, which then triggers all of us to try and figure out how it all happened. That's the magic of pro wrestling though, you really just never know what's around the corner. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is 10 faces you never thought you'd see on WWE TV. Number 10, Kotabushi. Before the new trend of wrestling, or the Cruiserweight Classic, there were a load of wrestlers that were never destined to step foot in a WWE ring. That was just the way of the world. They didn't have the look or weren't Vince's type. The door was shut. And then things changed. With NXT growing in stature and Triple H having more of a say in that regard, the focus shifted to faster paced and more hard-hitting matches, which all of a sudden meant grapplers who were ignored before were now all the rage. Kota Ibushi was such a man, dominating Japan for around 13 years. It was ridiculous he was even invited to take part in the tournament, let alone actually accept and be involved. But there he was, Ibushi, on WWE TV. Losing in the semi-final, mostly because he didn't want to sign an exclusive contract. It doesn't matter what happens with Kota going forward, because you can't unsee this. It happened, and it was great. Number 9, Jim Cornette. Outspoken, brash, and never one to mince words, Jim Cornette has said so much about WWE and Vince McMahon since he left the company, there was no feasible way he was ever going to be able to work his way back into their good graces. Not that he would have wanted to either, or cared. Cornette is a man unto himself. And then when it was time for the Rock and Roll Express to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, there was only one man for the job, and WWE knew that. Hence why we saw the master of using a tennis racket as a weapon back on our screens in April 2017. Where Cornette is concerned too, it's always been a surprise to see him hook up with Vince and co even back in the day. A long-time critic of the cartoony nature of the product, he still joined up with him in 1993 to manage Yokozuna. It's crazy then, it's kinda still crazy now. Number 8, the Sandman. He may have ticked a lot of the Stone Cold Steve Austin boxes before Stone Cold Steve Austin, but the Sandman was never in the mold of a WWE superstar. Far from family friendly and not exactly a superb in-ring talent, he was never going to be someone Vince McMahon thought highly of, or at least that's what you'd assume. But it happened. When ECW and the then WWF were more than happy to team up on occasion in the late 90s, there sat at ringside of in-your-house mind games was the Sandman, plonked right next to Tommy Dreamer to boot. He even saw fit to spit beer right into Savio Vega's face, which isn't the worst way to make an impression, especially as the whole thing was greenlit by McMahon. Sandman would return during the ECW revamp of the 2000s, once again highlighting that wrestling is nuts and nothing is out of the question. Number 7, Jerry Lawler. This seems like a ridiculous thing to say in the modern day, because Jerry Lawler is so intertwined with the WWE, you can't even think of a time he wasn't. It's been decades after all. If we do travel back in time though, especially to the point where Vince McMahon was trying to go national with the WWF, the King wasn't too fond of his future boss. Why? Slap your head. Well, because Lawler was the face of Memphis wrestling, and what Vince wanted to do threatened that in more ways than one. Unlike most wrestlers who would travel from territory to territory, Jerry stayed in his home state constantly, usually ensuring he was the top guy no matter what else happened. He was a huge draw there, so it made sense. It was only in 1992, when the McMahon Empire was too big to ignore, that he decided to join up. Even then he stayed connected to Memphis, however, and still does today, which is ludicrous, all things considered. Number 6, Abdullah The Butcher. For years, Abdullah the Butcher, as his name suggests, was the guy that would travel the world and cut people's foreheads open with a fork. That's what he did. Blood would spill everywhere, it was kinda gross, but still, wrestling. While he did this everywhere though, he never did it in the WWE, mostly because, you know, he was ploughing kitchen utensils into skulls. Then in 2011, he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Why this happened, no one knows, although Abdullah did make a name for himself in the business and was worthy of the call. He just didn't seem like a guy that would ever be featured on WWE TV, and yet here he was being honoured for everything he did outside of the company. No one expected that, and yet it happened. Number 5, Florence Henderson. Sometimes WWE does things and it's like, what are you doing? But yeah, better known to audiences across the world as Carol Brady from the Brady Bunch that aired in the 1970s, Henderson turned up on Raw in 2010 during the guest host era, just because. Complete with a ton of references to the cult classic, including a bizarre reimagining of the programming's opening title sequence, WWE also saw fit to work in a laughter track during her segment with Santina Marella. This would probably have been fine if the Brady Bunch hadn't have been cancelled 35 years prior. But But it had, and there was no need for this at all. Number 4, Al Sharpton. Another result from WWE's obsession with bringing in famous faces to host Raw. Al Sharpton, a man known for his political commentary and civil rights movements, should never have been in a pro wrestling ring. Yet in 2009, he damn sure was. Agreeing to turn up so he could promote his ideas for educational reform, he stood next to Chris Jericho of all people, and apparently, according to Y2J, wasn't that easy to work with. He demanded to be flown in by private jet, showed up 90 minutes before his slot, and then left 15 minutes after that. So it sounds like a worthwhile endeavour all around. Number 3, Sting. There are some people that after a while you just think to yourself, this ain't ever gonna happen, man. And Sting at one time may have been top of that list. A stalwart for WCW and TNA for years, and coming close to signing with WWE throughout all of that, but never biting the bullet, it just seemed like Steve Borden and the WWE would never find ways to do business with each other. Then we got to Survivor Series 2014. Interfering in the main event complete with an awesome stare down with Triple H, Sting would go on to fight the game at WrestleMania 31 and lose. And then he lost again a few months later to Seth Rollins too. Plus after that match he was so injured he had to retire. On second thought, maybe Sting was right in the first place. Number 2, Verne Gagne. One of the biggest casualties of WWE's national expansion. Verne Gagne's AEWA went out of business in 1991 after its roster was well and truly gutted. Mean Gene Okerlund, Bobby Heenan, Jesse Ventura, and most importantly Hulk Hogan were all signed away, meaning the writing was soon on the wall. That's kind of why it was bittersweet when Verne was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006 because of the bad blood that must have existed back in the day. Even his son Greg quipped on that night that neither had agreed to join Vince's Kiss My Ass Club, which was surely a wry dig at everything that had gone down years prior. In many ways, it's amazing he accepted the honour in the first place. But he did, and there he was, right there on WWE TV. Number 1, Eric Bischoff. If you were present for any of the fighting between WWE and WCW in the late 90s, it was unfathomable to think that Eric Bischoff, the former head of Ted Turner's crew, would ever be on a Vince McMahon television product. Aside from trying to put his rivals out of business, Bischoff would constantly be getting under McMahon's skin with underhanded tactics such as giving away Raw's results, or just straight up signing talent from under his nose. The heat between the two was like nothing else. If you ever needed proof that McMahon will do anything if it's good for his bottom line though, on July 15, 2002 he appointed Eric as the new GM of Raw, and the world stood still. It was so surprising that even some of the wrestlers in the back couldn't believe it had happened, Ric Flair especially, who was appalled by the hiring. It's hard to think how this could ever be topped. There's a good chance it never will.
So that was our video. Thank you for watching. Please do feel free to click on anything happening around my head, or something terrible might happen to this dog. Is that you too sweeting me, bro? Ugh. Disgusting. It's really bad.